with that, we do have our next guest on the line.
So, Dr. Elizabeth Loose is on the line. She is the Research and Engagement Manager at John Smith Centre. Welcome to the Drive Time Show on Voice of Islam.
Hiya, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining. One striking thing your UK Youth Poll 2025 revealed was the impact of being unemployed and political disengagement. Could you possibly expand on this?
Yes, absolutely. So you're absolutely right. We found a gap between those who are educated and employed and those who are not as educated and unemployed in terms of how strongly they feel that they have a say in today's society. So, for example, we asked if there was a general election tomorrow, who they would vote for, with the option to say, I wouldn't vote. And so of those who are in work, only 9% said that they wouldn't vote. But of those who are not in work and not seeking work either, 37% said they wouldn't work. So more than 28% more than those who are in work. Similarly, we asked them how much they feel that their vote could make a difference in their local area or in their region where they live. And of those who are in work, 71% said or agreed that their vote would make a difference, compared to only 48% of those who weren't in work. So again, that's almost a 30% difference. So it's really striking. And similarly, the question, if someone were to kind of consider to get involved in politics, 42% of those in work said they would consider getting involved in political life, but of those unemployed, only 26% said so. So again, like a massive gap. So and that kind of wove itself through various questions, and it was always those in work and those educated feeling that they had way more of an impact and were way more likely to get involved than those who are unemployed or had less education.
So in your opinion, what factors lie behind young people in the survey being in favour of stricter controls on social media for under 16s?
Yeah, so one of the questions we asked was if young people would favour banning social media platforms for under 16s, and it was 67% of them agreed, strongly agreed, or somewhat agreed, so definitely the majority. And a part of the poll or part of the study was that we ran some focus groups and some interviews as well, and that's where we really got some rich data on why young people thought social media can be quite harmful, actually. So a really big aspect of that is mental health. I think that's something we've all heard about, and we know that social media can have a really negative effect on someone's mental health, whether it's through unrealistic expectations that are created by social media, by peer pressure, harassment, cyberbullying, comparison culture. Like all these aspects can really contribute to a young person, especially to have increased anxiety or develop depression or chronic stress. But there were quite a lot of other aspects that were mentioned. So, for example, someone mentioned inappropriate content being shown online. So extreme views that would reduce your tolerance, because obviously social media would always, the algorithm will keep showing you that extreme view and make it worse and worse and worse. Or exposure to really manipulative, divisive political content. Also, an aspect which I find really interesting is that especially young people, because they are so much on social media, they are constantly bombarded with the news. So whereas maybe in previous generations, you maybe read your paper in the morning, you watched the news in the evening on the television, that is now, it's constant. And at the same time, they're feeling kind of almost a fear of missing out in terms of the news. Like if you are not constantly consuming news, you might be missing something. Disinformation and misinformation were big aspects as well. Also deterioration of social skills. So obviously the more time you spend on social media, the less time you maybe spend face-to-face, meeting friends, and having discussions and debates really with someone face-to-face instead of, through a comment on social media. And one thing that was said that was really striking is someone says, I've lived through growing up with social media. I don't want my younger siblings to have to do the same. So it was really that kind of protective element of, I don't want younger people to have access to social media because I know how harmful it can be. We should also say there were also a lot of positive ways. So obviously social media can be used to connect with other people, to educate, to conduct political activism. So there's definitely a two-sided discussion to be had here, but there were lots of negative aspects mentioned for sure.
Sounds very pessimistic, but according to your study, What evidence was there that the young people remained optimistic about their future?
Yeah, we definitely had some evidence. So we asked young people generally how optimistic they are about the future, and 63% said they were very or somewhat optimistic, so more than half. And the same amount of people said that they also think their life will be better than that of your parents. So also more than half thought, yeah, that's still, even though things might be quite bleak at the moment, they would be better off than their parents. And asking them how happy they are right now, 72% said they are very or rather happy. So that was, again, more than a majority. So these are actually quite encouraging numbers. However, we also asked a little bit around mental health, not too much, but I know you've discussed this previously just in the last hour. So we asked young people how often they would feel nervous or anxious or on edge during the week. And 26% that said they felt anxious daily, and 30% said weekly. So even though there's optimism, we do see more than 50% of young people still being quite anxious and quite nervous generally in their life. And just some general aspects that we found, we asked them why that is. And it was all very kind of bread and butter issues. So inflation, cost of living, healthcare, housing affordability, mental health support, all of these factors rank really, really high when asking young people what do you think are the most important topics for the UK today, and equally, what makes you anxious. So definitely those kind of bread and butter issues that we've seen come up during the cost of living crisis for everybody, really.
Yeah. So your final thoughts, Dr. Elizabeth, how is the John Smith Centre, which supported your research, enabling young people to actually make a difference in politics?
Yeah, so in general, the John Smith Centre, we're based at the University of Glasgow, and our mission is to open doors for young people to public life, and especially for those who are underrepresented in public politics or in public life at the moment. And we do that through various ways. So we've got development programs where we enable young people to do internships with MSPs, for example, or MPs, or a mayor, for example, to really go into the political sphere and see how it works and how they can make a difference. We do school classes or school programs. As you say, our research is really grounded in young people's voices. So the question that we're asking come from young people, because we don't want to ask what we think is important. We want young people to ask the questions and then find out what they think about those and amplify those voices. And we also host a lot of events to just promote young people's involvement and promote a more healthy political debating culture.
Thank you so much, Dr. Elizabeth, for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.